Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages. Once again, this is Jeffrey Daniel coming to you from Abuja, Nigeria. Today is March 8th, 2022, according to that Gregorian calendar. Okay, I'm gonna keep banging on that Gregorian calendar until we finally get the nerves and the guts to get it right and return all those other thousands of years that they've just omitted from history. Okay, we got to get them back. Okay, all right, you guys. So I hope you all are doing good. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves, taking care of your loved ones, taking care of each other. As things get more dismal around the world, I think it's time for us to look more inward and think about each other. Okay, first of all, I would like to thank everybody who has tuned into my song Back to the World, because that's what I'm talking about. Let's take it back to the world. Let's all act like humans again. Okay, and if you want to check out my other song, Let's Make Love Great Again. Make love great again. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about love. I'm talking about peace, understanding, caring, sharing, taking it back to the basics. We got to take it back to the basics, you guys, to get it right. All right, we've moved too far away from all of that. And I also like to give my disclaimer. Anything I say and stand for is not meant to be discriminative against any group of people, any individual, or any race of people. I am not a racist. I am not prejudiced, but I do like to bang on topics and subjects, okay? And I will not bang on any individual unless you deserve it. And I have to give you that deserve it look, okay? You don't want to see that look no more, do you? Neither do I. All right. So anyway, and as I'm disseminating my, disseminations, I would like to warn you guys that the truth isn't always comfortable. I shall espouse some uncomfortable truths along the way. The truth has no obligation to be comfortable. It only has to be honest, all right? And you're going to hear some beeping going on now because the power just went down, but I can't stop, so I'm already in motion, so I got to go on. And another thing I'd like to tell you guys, this is the information age. And in the information age, ignorance is a choice. So the choice is yours. I'm just trying to be the voice of reason. In this climate of fake news and uncertainties and every man for himselfism, I'm just trying to be the voice of reason, okay? Now, I'm sure, well, first of all, the name of this post is called, Is This World War III? Is this World War III? The big question many analysts have on their minds right now is this the beginning of World War III? And we should all take notes on how this conflict develops because it could be a precursor for the Third World War. The average person thinks that it's just an invasion of one of Russia and its neighboring countries. But when you look back at the history preceding this invasion, it becomes more evident that there's a much bigger picture in front of our eyes. In fact, so big, we need to take a few steps back, maybe a few yards back, so we can see the whole picture. And the deeper you look, the more convoluted the scenario appears. But the more important thing we have to wrap our minds around is that the art of warfare has changed dramatically since World War II. World War II was mostly about bullets, grenades, bombs, cannons, tanks, Navy and Air Force fleets. Oh, and the finale, the atomic bomb. World War III, however, will be more high-tech and drawn with nebulous lines. The next World War will be fought with cyber attacks, fake news, the social media, economic sanctions, international game boycotts, political alliances, drone strikes, and hypersonic missiles and other more deadly weapons such as the thermobaric weapon, aka the vacuum bomb. And if you don't know about that one, I'll tell you guys about that one later, okay? So, and did you all hear Putin use the N word? Putin used the N word. Nope. No. Not the N word that incites racial discord, but the N word. Putin put his nuclear deterrent system online. He's actually implying a nuclear response. Of course, that at this point, he's being overdramatic, But just the fact that he's insinuating a nuclear response, the man is clearly a megalomaniac. Now, I was the only person 2 years ago that pegged Donald Trump as being solipsistic. And now I'm telling you all that Putin is a megalomaniac, okay? Now for you newcomers who need to catch up, solipsistic is a mental disorder where a person can't accept anything outside of one's own mind. And self cannot be aware of anything else but self. That's Trump. Now, a megalomaniac, a person with an obsessive desire for power. Putin. He wants complete power over Russia and surrounding countries. So Putin is a class A case megalomaniac, okay? So now, having explained that, if I were the leader of a country that shared a borderline with a leader who was a serial megalomaniac, me personally, I would do anything and everything in my power not to antagonize that leader, especially if he's the commander of one of the biggest militaries in the world. I'm just saying, you guys, you know. Now, even though this video is entitled World War III, it's just World War III. Before I address the obvious events that are unfolding before our eyes on the news, I first want to talk about mankind. Humankind and us. Okay? You guys know how I like to take things back to its genesis and find out the impetus of why things are, culminating and getting to this point. So I'd like to take us there, okay? So here we go. If we don't clearly understand how we got ourselves to this point in history, we will only repeat this cycle of continuous wars and killings and destruction of our planet. We have to evolve. Killing our adversaries who don't agree with our policies, we have to evolve past that. We have to get past that, It's very kind of like caveman mentality. Now that right there proves that Charles Darwin's theory of evolution is wrong, because since the beginning of mankind on this planet until now, we have been killing other humans who don't agree with us or to get what we want from them. We are not evolving. Think about that. We're using the same tactics, the same methods. Does that seem like evolution to you? So this proves Charles Darwin was wrong about the theory of evolution. But hey, if he wants to believe that he evolved from an ape, hey, don't let me rain on his parade. Good luck with that, all right? Okay, anyway. What we really need to do as a species, as a human and as mankind, no matter what race or color you consider yourself, is just pause for a moment. Can we all just stop? I believe universal law had put us all on pause with the pandemic while we were all on a global lockdown. But did we really use that opportunity to reflect on where we are and how we got here and where we should be going as a species? We all want the pandemic to end, but where are we heading as a species once it's done? What lessons have we taken from this experience that can enhance the quality of our existence? Did we learn anything after witnessing everything frozen in a state of uncertainty? Now, stay with me now. I'm talking about humanity and mankind as a collective. We need to address this. We really need to address this, you guys. And we'll get to I know you guys want to hear about the bombings and the death tolls and the threats and all that stuff and the action. But you guys, we really need to get to this to understand what we need to do, what's really going on and what we really need to do, okay? Now, so stay with me, you guys. Stay with me. We'll get there. Now, imagine if you were a highly civilized, sophisticated alien race from another part of the universe, and you just happened to stumble across this planet, and you observed what the inhabitants of this beautiful blue planet was doing to their own environment and to all living creatures. What would you think? What would you think about them? You'd think these are some uncivilized, sub-intelligent, barbaric, kill-mongering primates who haven't yet evolved. That's the only conclusion you can draw. Creating mechanical and high-tech gadgets and toys doesn't make the species smarter. In fact, we're now using smartphones to do more dumbass shit. And please excuse me, you guys. I'd like to keep this family rated, but please excuse me for saying shit, but I'm too old to say doo-doo. I'm too old to sit up here and say doo-doo. So, people, I mean, think about that. We're all using smartphones, but people are just using them to do more dumb shit. People, mankind, humans, look at where we're heading. And it's not like it's just hints or innuendos. The writing is on the wall. We are all sitting back watching the imminent destruction of our very existence. As I said before in an earlier video about the Great Reset, another phrase I pegged back in 2020, that's a Jeffrey Daniel original, the Great Reset, universal law putting us on pause. These things came from me first. Second Civil War. All these things came from me first, you guys. All right, go back and see them. So, as I said before, when I was talking about the Great Reset, we did not create the universe or the galaxy or our solar system or our planet. So who in the hell are we to destroy all of this beautiful and wondrous creation that has been given to us as a gift? Now, whether you adhere to it all just happened by chance or a supreme entity created it, just being alive is a gift. Life may be the only gift that we ever get. And what are we doing? Just the very air that we breathe is a gift. The presence of water that covers 72% of this Earth's surface to ensure that there's enough hydration to last for billions of years. All of the diverse plants and animals that we didn't even have one hand in creating that outnumber us. I told you guys before, I said humans only comprise, listen, humans only comprise 0.01% of life forms on this planet. Do you guys get that? Do you understand what that means? We only comprise 0.01% of life forms on this planet. But here we are decimating all of it, little by little in an attempt to replace it with genetically modified artificial concoctions. And here we are, and we actually have the natural organic originals. But we just want to destroy it and try to replace it with AI technology, nanotechnology, GMO, biological, spliced up and hybrid this and hybrid that. That's the thinking of mankind, not humanity. That's the thinking of mankind. Let me tell you guys something. Is that not some Frankenstein monster shit or what? And they're going about it as if it's the most natural thing to do. They are. Our barometer for insanity has been lowered so low that we no longer recognize it. And when I was young, this type of behavior would have been labeled as a mad scientist. You guys remember those days, a mad scientist. Now, in our celebration of electronic gadgets, handheld devices, biologically manufactured experiments, nanotechnology, space travel, and overpriced material possessions, we no longer value nature or life, especially human life. Our youth are being groomed to believe that whoever pulls up in the most expensive cars, got the most expensive jewelry, and designer fashion equates to being successful. And this is all that they're living for. This is all they're living for. Oh yeah, they're about to flood the market. I saw with these $1 million+ SUV vehicles. And once they see them in these rap videos, these young folks are going to be dying to have one, ready to sell their souls just to own one. They've got these, they're converting these Mercedes and all these other makes. I'm not advertising for them, but they're taking all these luxury brand cars and they're making these luxury brand SUVs out of them. And they're selling them for over $1 million a pop. Look how things are just, the price. I remember when I was young, a luxury car was like $15,000. A Cadillac, $15,000. $15,000. Now cars are going to the Bugattis that go to $3 million, $4 million. You got all these cars. So this is a new thing, spending the price that you would spend on a beautiful house, a luxury house, is now going on the price of a car. This is what we're doing as humans, as a species. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. Okay, anyway. Now, also, after people put on these goggles and enter the metaverse, the virtual reality platform, living their fantasies through avatars, there may be no turning back to the real world. Why do we need a virtual world when we have the real world here around us? All of this is incongruous with real life, you know? It's just, what has this got to do with anything? Just because they can do it. Just because. We are all allowing just enough people that can fill up a boardroom to dictate 7 billion lives and futures at the expense of our life's energy and our limited time alive on this earth. And this is what's happening, you guys. These mega corporations, these big conglomerates, they are now, how to say, they're putting all these companies into one. They're buying everything up under one belt, you know, and then they're owning everything. And now they're gonna dictate what we eat, what we wear, what we see, where we go, how we get there. They want to dictate every aspect of our life, and we're just compliant. We're just allowing them to do it while making them filthy rich. You guys got to wake up. You got to wake up. You got to wake up. Are you guys still with me? You know, I'm taking us deep into why things are happening. It's always good to understand the whys, not just the what, the where, and the hows, but the whys. Okay? I want to talk about the license to kill. Let me wet my whistle real quick, you guys. It's another blistering hot day here, so. Who in the hell is any nation's leader that he feels that he has the right to take innocent lives, be it the soldiers he sends out to fight on his behalf, or the lives of innocent civilians who just happen to live in that particular country? And these leaders, they don't go out on the battlefield. They're sitting in an air-conditioned office or a palace in a plush chair, just like a coward, sending people out to die on their behalf. Our world is being governed by war-mongering, power-hungry individuals who possess the minds of toddlers in kindergarten. And I'm not being cynical when I say that, because to stoop to the level of taking human lives, the most precious existence in this universe that we know of, especially on a large scale, is nothing short of psychopathic behavior. I'm telling you guys, these leaders are psychopaths and nothing less. Then try to convince people it's a normal course of action to indulge in such genocidal killing sprees, disguising it with words like democracy or patriotism or just the, act of war. And we just watch it all unfold on the news. We just go to the evening news and we're just watching it as if it's entertainment. But yet, we are taught back in kindergarten that if we have a dispute with another student, we should never fight, but to make up, shake hands, and hug, and be friends. But yet we see our world leaders are totally incapable of circumventing such deadly conflicts. Why doesn't it apply to them? But this is what they teach us when we're young, that we should get along. The last thing we should do is fight. These guys, they just, here we go. And the sad part about it is, after all the senseless killings, displaced refugee citizens, destruction of properties and infrastructures costing into the billions, an agreement will eventually be settled. So why not just sit down long enough to agree in the first place? Some people are wise, some people are otherwise. I don't know. Anyway, now I want to caution you all on how I'm going to describe who's doing what in this world. So if I happen to mention a people by a cultural or racial identity, it's not in reference to every individual in that particular group, but it's how I describe the responsible, guilty players in that racial or cultural group, all right? So I don't want people to take things personal. If I say the Europeans or the Westerners or the Easterners or the Africans or these things, I don't want everybody being offended. I'm talking about the players in that group, the people who are calling the shots and making things happen, okay? So let's make sure we're on one. One thing we can all agree with is that ever since the Western industrialization revolution in the 1800s, the intention of killing and warfare has become more wholesale and inhumane. You guys remember the Gatling gun? That's when that came up in the 1800s, and they did not hesitate to use it. I don't want to go back into the historical thing, how they used it in India, how they used it against the Native Americans across America and that, because they had this thing that can just take out so many people. So people actually began to create weapons and methods on how to maximize the killing of humans in larger numbers. Weapons of mass destruction, biological weapons, long-range strike missiles, atomic and nuclear bombs, and a garden variety assortment of incendiary bombs. Napalm bombs, they got bunker busters, they got cluster bombs, they had landmines, all for the purpose of maximum human death toll. So the question is, what kind of minds would even contemplate such diabolical and inhumane weapons designed against humans and nature? What kind of mind sits down to orchestrate this? In fact, humans, the environment, and animals get caught up in these killing sprees. Humans used to believe that killing just one tree or animal needlessly was an abomination. And that's how we used to govern ourselves. Just to cut down one tree needlessly, that would have been an abomination. Just to kill any animal. Like these people come to Africa and they go on trophy hunting. So they see a magnificent beast and just kill it. To put the beast's head on their wall, or to take a picture next to an elephant or a lion or a rhino, and to the point where they have depleted these majestic animals to the point of going extinct. All for sport? What kind of mind? Think about it, you guys. What kind of mind would even go there? You see? So it seems that their sole purpose in this universe is to invade, conquer, destroy, and kill in a universe that creates life. Why are they not trying to create ways to complement this wonderful existence of creation? But yet they call it progress. They call it civilization. People have been taught to believe that westernization equates to civilization. But when we look back on their history of wanton destruction, you find that they can't be any further from the truth. Westernization is not civilization. Now, I know some of you will argue that there were wars and killing in other parts of the world also, which is true, no doubt. But look at the skill and methods of killing and destruction from the West that permeated across the globe in an effort to conquer the world. It's unparalleled. It's unparalleled. Now, since ancient times, there have been conflicts and outbreaks of fighting, and of course, weapons were devised. But the art of war had a totally different connotation than the wars after the 1800s, from that time on. Maybe a little back in the 1700s, but really from the 1800s on, this is what we're looking at. Remember, I was born in the 1900s. That's not that long ago. So you youngins talk about, well, this is 2000. That's a long time ago. No, I was born in the 1900s. All right. So it's just, history's not that far behind us. So you have to look back and understand that for thousands of years, wars were fought with simple weapons such as spears, swords, knives, bow and arrows, which was the first projectile weapon, the bow and arrow. But it was originally used for hunting animals for food and its fur, not against other humans, until somebody crossed that line and started using them against humans. Now, in fact, Nubia, if you don't know where Nubia is, that's the lower part under Cuba. Under Egypt. Sorry, where did Cuba come from? That's the lower part up under Egypt. That's down there where Nubia is, okay? So the Nubia was named Ta-Seti, which means land of the bows, because they were famously proficient at using the bows and arrows. And the Nubians created an infamous long bows. So they had these long bows that could even have the arrow travel much further. And these people were just the masters of it, the Nubians, In fact, Egypt was comprised of the lower and upper Egypt, and they were all as one at one time, So it's, the borderlines move around and stuff like that. But still, the object of warfare wasn't to annihilate as many people as possible. If one side retreated or surrendered, the fighting stopped abruptly, and prisoners of wars were taken into your kingdom and eventually became functioning members of your group, which expanded your population and your army. You see? So fighting didn't really get nasty until the invasion of foreigners who introduced a more brutal and barbaric style of warfare. So naturally, the Egyptians and them had to adapt in order to defend themselves against a more deadly enemy. And if you guys want to look through history, you can find all this stuff. I don't want to go through the whole history lesson of the Hyksos and all these different people who are invading into their land and stuff, and back to the Alexander the Great, the Greeks and the Romans, and all this stuff that went on. So anyway, now, except for invasions by foreigners, wars were pretty much contained to territorial or waterway disputes, but had nothing to do with maximum death tolls. Human lives held a much higher value than it does today. Back in those days, a life, a life. That's it. All we have is life. Whatever you acquired during your lifetime, whatever you accomplished during your lifetime, but all you have is this life, And now they're creating unmanned weapons that can travel long distances to eliminate humans without destroying much of the environment, So this is what they're up to now. And I was shocked to hear that the Russians were rolling out their thermobaric arsenal weapons, or aka the vacuum bomb. It's called a thermobaric arsenal weapon, or vacuum bomb. And what does this little baby do? The thermobaric weapon uses oxygen from the surrounding air to generate a high temperature explosion that's causing a power wave of pressure that sucks out oxygen from any confined spaces nearby. In layman terms, it can suck out your lungs. What mad scientists went into a lab to create this monstrosity? A bomb that explodes, takes the surrounding oxygen and raises it to a high temperature and sucks out the oxygen from confined spaces. Somebody actually sat down and said, you know what? I think I can come up with something that can do this to people. Make them die the most excruciating deaths. Wholesale. Whoever's in that vicinity, take them all out. That's not the mind of a human. That's not the thinking of a human. And you guys have to understand there's a difference between human and mankind. They're not the same. Humankind and mankind, they're not the same. Because a human would not even dream of something like this. And if the thought came to their head, they'd slap themselves and wake up and be right again. Because this is the thinking of a mad scientist, you guys, and this is the world we're dealing with. So this is what I'm talking about, you guys. Before we get, into the Putin and all this stuff, and what's his name, Zelensky, and all this stuff, you guys. But I'm getting there. But I'm showing you guys who we are as humanity, what we're doing with mankind, where we're going with this existence. Because if we don't stop this and get it right, what do we have to look forward to in the future? Where are we going in the future? It's just going to be more of this, more of that, and getting worse and worse as we go. This is what's happening. And we're not stopping to address this. We're not stopping to properly put this on the table and say, whoa, wait a minute. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be a part of it. We don't want to be that. And we're not doing that. That's why I'm addressing this, you guys. Now let me get back to what's going on, okay? All right, here we go. Now, before you get your emotions wrapped up in this Ukraine conflict, you really need to know the history of the relationship between Russia, the USSR, and those surrounding countries. It's not as cut and dry as you see it is on the news. It's not as cut and dry. Ukraine isn't Christ itself in the flesh either. But even though I do not condone the disproportionate heavy hand that Putin is dealing to the civilians of Ukraine, just the death of one citizen is tragic and unnecessary. So let's get that straight. I do not condone how Putin is reacting to it. But you guys have to see what's really going on before you invest your emotions and get all riled up on either side. Like I said before, it's not our fight to begin with. It's not our fight. Not that I'm trying to be, like I don't care about them. I'm trying to be insensitive to them. I'm not trying to be that, but it's just not our fight. Listen, since 2014, Ukraine has been embattled with its eastern regions by Russian-backed separatist advocates. Now, France and Germany tried to intervene at two different times with the Minsk Agreement, and they were signed in an attempt to quell the conflicts. But the million-dollar or ruble question is, why would the Ukrainian president allow the U.S. to coerce him into antagonizing Russia and Putin? And this is something that we really have to get to, because that's the impetus of the stages where we're at now. How the U.S. and NATO encouraged the Ukrainian president into antagonizing Putin. Because remember, Putin and them pulled up to the borders, but they were just sitting there. So people were pondering, is this an invasion or not? And Putin said, no, it's not an invasion. And they're, well, if it's not an invasion, why are all these forces there? You see, Putin just didn't rush in there and go. He was trying to give them a chance to renege on his stance. He was trying to give them a chance to renege on his stance. You guys go back and look. You do have to give Putin that credit. He didn't just bum rush them all of a sudden. He was building up his troops along the way as he was seeing how this thing was unfolding. And once he got wind that, hey, let's listen to the details, you guys. Listen to the details. Did you hear all the bold and hubris threats that Biden was issuing to Putin before the invasion, as they saw the Russian military forces building up around the Ukrainian borders? If you invade Ukraine, you will live to regret it. You'll have the hell to pay. Go ahead, knock it off my shoulder. I dare you to. But Putin was just like barking like a junkyard dog. But once the invasion commenced, what did Putin and NATO do? What did Putin and NATO do? Twiddled their thumbs. Twiddled their thumbs. Then announced that no U.S. military boots would be planted in Ukraine. But after the first initial wave of the invasion, the Ukrainian military was putting up a pretty good fight that prevented Russian military from taking over a few key cities. And that was what was going on. And we saw that. And so they're getting all like, hyped up and stuff like, wow, the Ukrainians are really fighting back, and people are staying behind it. They helped fight the Russians off. And the Ukrainian president was getting all, full of himself. Like, I'm not running away. I'm going to stay here and fight. I'm going to stay here and fight. Big mistake. Big mistake. First of all, you have to consider the size of the Russian army with over 900,000 active personnel. Over 900,000 active personnel, opposed to Ukraine's army with 245,000 active personnel and volunteering citizens. Russia is the second most powerful army in the world after the United States. Ukraine's army ranks 22nd in the world. You do the math. So naturally, after Ukraine scored a minor first victory and bragged about it over the media, what in the hell did they think that Putin's response was going to be? And remember, we're talking about a former KGB director who's now a megalomaniac for president. No matter how bravely your military or citizens try to deflect this invasion, Russia will eventually overpower Ukraine. Stevie Wonder can see this. Stevie Wonder can see this, okay? But did you guys hear about Putin's birth? Did you guys know where Putin really comes from? I want to talk about Putin and these people, okay? So you guys can really understand who are the players in this game. Let me tell you guys about Putin's birth, in case you guys didn't see this one. All right? As the story goes, Putin's father was returning home from the front lines for a short break during World War II. As he approached his apartment that he shared with his wife, he saw a pile of dead bodies stacked on the street that some men were loading onto a flatbed truck, right? And so he was just like, just looking at what was going on. But as he drew closer, he recognized a pair of shoes on one of the female's bodies that looked like his wife's shoes. And when he got closer, he saw that that was his wife. So after demanding his wife's body from them, they went over it sometime, they gave him his wife's body back. He took her inside the apartment and noticed that she was still barely alive. Now, this is Putin's mother and father, okay? He nursed her back to health, and 8 years later, Vladimir Putin was born. So, do you see what this man was forged from since birth? And now he's the leader of the second most powerful army on the planet? And you want to challenge him in a combat and on your home turf? I'm sorry to say, you guys, I just can't foresee any possible positive outcome on behalf of the Ukrainian army. As courageous as they might be, I don't know. I don't know. I could be wrong. I just cannot see a positive outcome for the Ukrainian army up against this. I seriously feel sorry for the Ukrainian leader for being left out in the cold like that by the US and NATO. But both Ukraine and Russia cannot go back on their stance, and it's looking very grim for the people of Ukraine. Now they got 1.7 million refugees that have fled out of Ukraine. Now I know 1.7 sounds like a conservative figure. It sounds like a number. I know there are many towns with fewer than 700,000 people in the world. There are countries with less than 1 million people in it in the world. And the vital targets that are being decimated, homes, farms, churches, hospitals, schools, airports, city halls, factories. This is a great destruction of vital infrastructure that would take time and billions of dollars to rebuild, not to mention the traumatic mental stress it will impose on the fleeing citizens, you know. The best the US and NATO can do in the meantime without getting into a direct conflict with the Russian military is impose sanction and trade embargoes and freeze certain bank accounts belonging to some of the Russian elites, you know. But none of that is stopping the hellfire of bombs being dropped on Ukraine cities and vital infrastructure, even taking over the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe. That's what's in Ukraine. The biggest nuclear power plant is there, and the Russians have taken over it. You guys, this thing is getting deep. It's getting deep, you know. But if the West knew in advance that they wouldn't be physically involved, don't you think they should have first exhausted every possible means of verbal negotiations before resorting to standing up to this powerhouse army? Or, as I suspected before, is there some hidden agenda that we don't know about that required Ukraine and Russia to kick off a scrimmage that will lead into something else? Sometimes we don't know, so we have to question everything. We have to question everything because we don't know. So let this invasion and destruction of civilian cities be a warning to us all of what could possibly happen to one of our own cities at the rate the world is turning. These leaders don't give a damn about human lives, and they only care about their own agendas and how to protect their own wealth. And this is where we're at, you guys. So now I want to talk about something else real quick, you guys. I want to talk about something else real quick. It's relevant. It's going on over there. Amongst all the bombing of civilian cities, the fleeing refugees, separating families, and civilian deaths, the thing that really disturbed me more at such a time of unspeakable crisis are the authorities and some of the people of Ukraine who found the time to treat foreigners who have nothing to do with this crisis like unwelcome guests. And the reports of Africans being refused to board trains out to safety and a pregnant African woman being pushed around is appalling. It's appalling. A small group of African students were forced off a train that was meant to take them to Poland. But the story that really breaks my heart is a Nigerian student who walked 2 days to reach the Polish border, where Nigeria had already arranged transports to evacuate their citizens back home to Nigeria, and he was refused entry into Poland. He was refused entry after walking for 2 days. They told him to walk back to where he came from, and he told them, you might as well just kill me here where I'm standing because I'm not walking back there. You know? I don't know how they finally resolved that matter because that's all the information that I got on it. And I'm seeing more stories coming out about how foreigners, and especially Africans, there's a video from the point of view of the Ukrainian guy who he accosted an African guy inside of a supermarket or whatever, a little market. And he's telling him, eat this banana, eat this banana. And the African guy's going, man, no problem, no problem. And he's forcing it. He slaps the banana in his face because it's filming from the point of view from the guy who's doing the talking. And he gave him so the African guy peeled the banana, took a bite out of it, like, okay. But the guy said, no, eat all of it, eat all of it. And that's what the film. This is what the Ukrainians are doing to African people. So let's get this straight. The Russian army is bombing the hell out of your country and occupying your cities, and you take it out on the visiting foreigners, Africans, and all the black people who were showing such empathy and compassion for the plight of the Ukrainians. But now this is how you Ukrainians treat black people in their country at a time of unsurmountable crisis. This is what the Ukrainians are doing, you guys. And of course, like I said, we can't blame this on each and every individual Ukrainian. I'm sure everybody's not responsible for this, but some of the authorities and some of their citizens are doing this. Like I said, it's not our fight. It's a family feud that goes back decades. In fact, Ukrainians speak Russian fluently, and their native Ukrainian language is comprised partially of Slavic and Russian. You know, they've got parts that make up their language. And you know what? I'm a very sentient human being and an empathetic person. And I had tears in my eyes watching a Ukrainian man saying goodbye to his daughter as he was staying behind to help fight, not knowing if he'd ever see his wife and daughter again. And I could relate to that, having, a young daughter. And I said, I had so much respect for the other citizens who stayed behind to face the Russian military and fight for their country. But my heart now has taken a different texture. I still have empathy for those people. I still feel sorry for them that they have to even endure this and go through this. But my heart has taken another texture as well, you guys, Even as reports are coming in that the Russians are now targeting escape routes out of Ukraine in order to trap and kill fleeing civilians, Putin clearly wants revenge. He wants revenge. He's a megalomaniac. And the Ukrainian president, his name Zelensky, has returned to his presidential office to boast that he's not afraid of anyone. He's gaining respect and admiration from the West and around the globe for his courageous stance, but he just might be orchestrating his own demise. Maybe President Zelensky should use diplomacy instead of the media to resolve his crisis. Since 2014, Putin had made it explicitly clear that Ukraine joining NATO was a red line issue that would result in a military response. They've known this since 2014. You guys have to look at both sides of the coin before you get involved and get your emotion involved. I'm not saying, just let's look at the information. And Zelensky has reportedly rejected the Minsk agreement. That's when they made the agreement in Minsk, Belarus. Now, I cannot say if the terms of the agreement was favorable or not, but further negotiations should have been pursued if it could have prevented such a vicious attack on his nation. I truly do wish him and his people well. I really do wish him and his people well. But if something could have been like this could have been averted. So now that we witness mankind at its most barbaric and savage state, what kind of future are we expecting with these kind of people in position of power over our world? Knowing mankind can stoop to such murderous, wanton killings of innocent people and destruction of properties. Look at mankind for who he is and what he has done over the millennia, and you be the judge. You be the judge of that. You be the judge. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, you guys, real quick, okay? Minister Louis Farrakhan just gave his final Savior's Day speech on February 27th. It's something that he would do annually, but this is his final one. He's going to retire from public speaking on that level. So just this past February 27th, Louis Farrakhan gave his final Savior Day speech, and social media outlets banned his live streams. Now, even if you don't agree with what he says or his fearless delivery of his messages, they prevented millions of people from hearing words of strength and wisdom on how we should proceed as humans and live together with each other and nature. But because he calls out doers of evil and refuses to bow to their offers of compromise, he's been labeled as a hate monger and anti-Semitic, even though in his 50 some odd years of teaching, he has not one time harmed or incited anyone else to harm one hair on a Jew's head. But yet he's been canceled from social media. Now, speaking truth to power will get you canceled. When I was younger, they said the truth will set you free. Now it's the truth will get you canceled. I fear America and the world was greatly deprived of hearing a teacher that they were in desperate need of hearing. Who else is here to try and guide humanity on a path of righteousness and equality without compromising his message for money or position? And now we see that the world is inching closer toward the Third World War. Who is going to guide and calm society away from such dangers that seem imminently inevitable? They want this war. They want this war. Religious people will pray for peace, as we have done for centuries. Non-religious people will cry out for justice and peace. But the beast that's ruling our world will not pause until everything is destroyed. Do you all know that on March 4th, a dead rocket crashed into the moon's surface and NASA is just treating it like business as usual? In fact, over a dozen crafts have crash landed on the moon so far. If mankind has his way, the entire universe will be littered with trash and debris with the same impunity that has Earth's orbit now overcrowded with space debris. This is the nature of the beast that's running our world. It's time to stop mistaking westernization for civilization before it's too late. I'll tell you again, westernization is not civilization. I pray for the people of Ukraine and Russia and to all the foreigners caught up in the middle of this deadly and destructive conflict. I pray for all of humanity that mankind doesn't succeed in his mission of total destruction. If you look back to the beginning of time to now, we're all on a course for total destruction. And we're sitting back like passengers while they're guiding us towards it, using our life's energy, our life's resource, our soul, our minds, our bodies. As I said, we got to take it back to the world. Let's act like humans again. Listen to my song. I'm gonna let you guys go now because I got long-winded with this, and we're gonna see how this conflict continues to evolve, what's going on between Ukraine and Russia, that it doesn't expand into a whole third world war and get other countries involved in it. Let's pray that it doesn't get that far. I pray that they stop bombing these people. I pray that they find a way to resolve this issue before it gets any further out of hand. So, as in always, I like to say, spread the love, make love great again. Let's go back to the world. You guys, what more can I say? Take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones. I love you all. Please be safe. Bye-bye.